He's joining us now on the Emerald Queen Casino Sportsbook Hotline. Hello, John.
How we doing today, guys?
How's it? Do you have like a tour bus with your face painted on the side of it that says the Never Ending Tour or something along those lines?
Wouldn't that be a blast? I'd love to tell you where I am, but we had a private workout today, and yeah, it was fun. It was a great day, and yeah, we're on our way back to the airport and calling in to do the John Schneider show, which is the Dukes of Hazzard show. The trying to do my best Bo Dukin.
Best Bo
because John Schneider was an actor. I get it.
Bo Duke. Yeah,
Dave was giving me a blank look there.
I'm a little slow today.
I was getting a blank look from Dave there.
Okay.
Hey, John, tell us about one of the things. I mean, you obviously prepping and sort of narrowing things down. And you mentioned this to us in the very beginning, that how important the medical meetings are, as far as getting, everybody checked out and things like that. Tell us kind of that process, and who are the guys that you're really relying on your training staff and your doctors, right?
Yeah, thanks for asking, because it's a huge part of our process, and our scouts do a great job all the way through the spring and into the fall, and trying to collect as much information as they possibly can, and then a medical staff, trainers, Strick, Sam, Dr. Ed, everybody that's involved, through the combine, and then all the information we're getting on non-combine guys and prospects, and then the 30 guys we're bringing in that we need to get physicals on. It's a huge process, and it takes a lot of time. We actually had a 3-hour meeting last night, grinding out the grades with the medical staff, all the docs and everything, and great. It always hurts when we have to take guys off the board for medical reasons. But everybody grades differently. All the teams grade differently, and hopefully some guys don't come off. Some guys will be on some boards, and some won't. And just real appreciative for all the effort that goes into it. Like I said, we had that long meeting last night, and we got out of there and got up early this morning and jumped on a plane, and headed back to the airport now.
Hey, John, has the attention to medical become even more, more intense after the DeMar Hamlin situation? I don't know if that was anything that could have been detected early in his career or anything like that, but I'm just wondering, when you see an episode like that, if that puts even more emphasis on, hey, let's leave no stone unturned when it comes to these guys in terms of everything we're looking at with them.
I'm sure that happens, with in the medical community for sure. At the combine, they meet a ton, and they have their own meetings themselves, the trainers and all the docs and everything. And I'm sure there's a huge emphasis on that. We've learned lessons all the way through. We drafted Garrett Scott, the tackle from Marshall, a number of years ago. And unfortunately, he was a non-combine guy. And, there weren't, that we didn't put him through the necessary extra tests that you have to do to, figure out the condition that he had. And, unfortunately, he was unable to play football again. And so, I don't think, it's really never enough when you talk about the testing and the imaging and the hands-on exams with the orthopods.
Hey, John, recently just the move with Ryan Neal, and just, you guys are always very mindful about, keeping the door open for next year or down the road. Tell us kind of how that process went with Ryan Neal. Yeah,
we would have loved to have Ryan on our squad this year. Unfortunately, a great guy, great player, great competitor. He did a great job, working with the staff. The staff did a great job developing him, over the last several years. But, unfortunately, there is a process of free agency, and it's just the reality of it. There's different phases, there's different consequences, and you're always competing as much as you can to stay in as many deals as you possibly can, and then figuring out what you can and can't do. And we did a number of things to advance our team and help out as many positions as we possibly could. And
did we lose him?
We had to remove the tender for Ryan, and he ended up choosing to go to Tampa for what he thought was a better opportunity. So we never closed the door. Obviously, you guys have seen that, and he'd be a free agent next year.
Hey, John, one of the interesting stories this week came from Drew Rosenhaus and talking about Jalen Carter, who, we've talked about mock drafts, and there's a million of them out there that have the Seahawks taking him at 5. We'll see what happens. But for an agent to come out and say, we're not speaking to anybody who's not in the top 10, I don't recall hearing that before. Is that a unique position to take, especially for a guy who you look at and say, you should be rebuilding your image right now, and there may be a team that wants to trade up into the top 10 to perhaps grab you, so it would behoove you to speak to anybody, wouldn't it?
You would think, everybody's going to advise, agents are going to advise their clients, how they deem fit, and obviously, I'm sure a lot of people want to spend time with Jalen, and there's only so much time you have with these guys. There's only a couple weeks post combine before the draft to be flying around the country. It takes a ton of time to set up all these visits and and everything, and just even our 30 visits we have, and Kirk Parrish and Haley Holtz do a great job of setting all that up, and it's a process. So I'm sure Drew had a reason and Jalen had a reason for cutting it off at a certain point. That's their prerogative. I really don't have an opinion one way or the other on that.
Hey, John, with the pandemic came the Zoom meetings, and that probably, a little bit better. I mean, you don't have to do them in person, but take us through the advantage of that brings you, and then, what's the sort of difference between, the people that you want to meet in person and look them in the eye, or the video part of it, the Zoom meetings?
Yeah, as odd as it sounds, right? The pandemic really helped us advance the way we interview guys, and our scouting staff does an awesome job at the All-Star games. Sitting down with the guys and having doing a Zoom interview and background interview, and then we thought we try to get as many. There's one they do at the combine that's not in a room that's standard. They've done the same thing for a number of years. What's your favorite type of ice cream and that sort of stuff that they ask every year. So the agents coach these guys up, perfect for that one. But you also have, the one that we film in the suite, which is the in-person one that you guys hear about all the time. And then, it's awesome with the Zoom, like where we've taken these Zoom meetings with the coaches, because the guys are just much more relaxed. The players, the prospects are just much more relaxed when they're, in their own, apartment or house or whatever, and just sitting there talking ball with the coaches, and you can really kind of fine tune your questioning and trying to figure out the answers or get the answers to the test that you want from these guys, or that you feel like you need in terms of them fitting into your system and in our culture.
Well, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, John, but as far as the agents, they're obviously coaching their guys up, right, of what's the right thing to say. Have you been able to sort of identify that part of it? Like, is that something he's just saying because he was told to say, or is that part of the whole kind of cat and mouse game?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point earlier, when you're in person with the guys, you can definitely do that a little bit easier. We had an interview today where we were, kind of trying to figure out exactly what you're talking about and asking several, question upon question, and then, getting to the truth of it. And this guy did a great job today. It's a great point. When you look at somebody in the eye and, they're on the spot and they have to, they have to be on top of their game. So that's the best part of the in-person visits. The Zoom part. I mean, we've had our mistakes there too. And we interviewed a guy several years ago that was, on a Zoom. Actually, it was the COVID year, and it was like he wanted nothing to do with us. He was just laying in his bed, like looked like he was playing video games or something, and lights were all turned off, and we're like, this guy is not a guy, And then he ends up going to Pro Bowls and stuff. So anyway, I guess. Not that anybody can go to a Pro Bowl, but I guess to each his own, right? I mean, I don't know what the heck this guy was thinking, but and then you have guys that are like, totally into it, dressed up, or want them to say hi to their wives or their girlfriends and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember Jamal Adams had a thing where he had to have his bed made. When the press talked to him, like he was in a hotel room and he would actually make his bed. So, that guy's trying, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, you got to make sure you're on your, you got to do exactly what you think you want. Like the perception is reality, right? So you got to get that out there.
Hey, John, who's in the room when who's asking the questions? Does it depend if it's an offensive player, defensive player? Maybe you've got a linebackers coach in there or a quarterback coach, or is it just you and Pete? Who's in the mix when it comes to interviewing these guys?
Oh, it depends. It's different situations. So when we're at the combine, the suite interviews, there's it's a rotation of guys in there. Obviously, if you're interviewing a linebacker, the linebacker coach, defense coordinator, Pete loves it. He's really into it. Loves interviewing the guys, and from I think probably from recruiting days right at USC, and sitting in homes and everything, and talking to the families and everything. He loves getting to know the guys and looking them in the eye. So he loves that part at the combine. But when we do the Zooms, it's usually the coordinator and the position coach, or just the position coach, and it just really depends on the timing. I mean, we try to do these Zooms with as many guys as we possibly can, and we probably have. These guys have done such a great job of it over the last 2 years now. We probably have 5, 6, video interviews of guys. So it's, whether it's all-star games or, coming in the suite at the combine, or, ones we do with the coaches individually, or, there's a bunch of them. So, and we constantly have them on too while we're studying in there. We'll be in the draft room, we'll be watching players, and there comes a point, Dave, I know this, where you're watching film and it's like, it feels like the day's never going to end, the game's never going to end. But, so we'll have those videos of the interviews on, and it's kind of cool. The guys are kind of talking to you, and, while you're watching them play and evaluating them. So it's a great setup. I think it's a great question, and I guess, something good can come from the COVID pandemic.
Yeah. Hey, last year, Bob and I talked to Clint Hurt when he got hired, and one of the things he said, John, was that I have a very healthy respect for the person.
Did he have his back with him?
His what?
Did he have his back with him?
I don't.
That's not the largest back you've ever seen in your life.
It was over the phone. It was over the phone. We couldn't see.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, you couldn't see him.
Yeah, and
it's a huge back on that guy. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
What's the best thing about?
Go ahead.
What's the best thing about Clint Hurt? Oh, he's got a huge back. That's awesome, man. Hey,
he's really intimidating, and he's got a huge back. Yeah.
He is intimidating, but couldn't be nicer. But no, he was saying how he had such a healthy respect for the personnel department, and so when you go on trips, when you're in these meetings, I mean, is it how much are the coaches involved? And the other thing is, has that been different? You've been different places like Kansas City and Green Bay. Does that vary team to team?
Oh yeah, definitely. You try to have as many open walls as you possibly can. And we've prided ourselves, Pete and I, when we got together in 2010, recognizing the different places that we've worked in the past, and the benefits of having direct lines of communication, and not having people's feelings hurt when opinions are stated, and we're getting there now. I mean, we're to the point here. We have the scouts coming in on Tuesday night, starting Wednesday meetings, and we'll be going through, listening to all those guys again, and everything they learned from the fall and the spring workouts, and then after that we'll have the coaches in, and then we'll dwindle it down, and Pete and I'll just sit in there, and then the night before it'll just be being there with myself and my thoughts, and so you kind of get to a point where there's so many opinions, and so many, and I'm just talking about draft prep right now, so many opinions that, you're getting all this information that's awesome, but at some point you got to nail it down, and we're getting close to that point now, so it's really exciting. But to your point about playing, we really pride ourselves on being able to, bust into a personnel coach's office and, sit down and chop it up with those guys for sure.
John, it's probably different this year because you guys are sitting at 5. Typically, you're down at the bottom of the first round, so a lot can happen in front of you. But I'm just wondering how often, if ever, you go into that room with it in your mind. We're taking player X. This is our guy. This is what we're doing. Done deal. And then things change at the last minute, whether, I don't know, he gets selected by somebody else or you guys just see somebody you didn't expect to be there. And all right, now we got to make moves. Is that the more common thing when you're at the bottom as opposed to you're at 5? I think you've got a pretty clear picture of what's probably going to happen in front of you.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we talked about it earlier where there's no question at 5 you have a little bit, you have a pretty good feel for, who those top guys are, in the general public's eye, I guess. But you have to be pliable all the way through. So, yes, there's been a number of times where, just snuck out to, go to the bathroom or something real quick and come back and, guy's gone. And you just have to be very pliable through the whole weekend. And that's why when our board is set, it's set. And we just keep moving through the weekend, like you would think a coach would set up a game plan sheet, right? So, if you have your 15 plays called or whatever, if your different situations, we pride ourselves on doing working the board the same way where we're on to the next thing, and you can't have your feelings get in the way of selecting good people and good players.
Hey, we got a pitch clock now with Major League Baseball, but you got a pitch clock there during the draft.
That? I haven't watched yet. Are we liking that?
Yeah, we like it. The games go by pretty quickly.
Love it.
Yeah.
Dave didn't like it initially. Felt he was being cheated out of waiting. He wanted more waiting.
No, I just thought less beer drinking time was what I thought.
Yeah, I was going to say it cuts into Dave's beer drinking time.
Hey, so when I met Jim Mora the first time, he was on the Chargers staff when I was drafted, and he told me that the clock was like running down and people were arguing, and obviously somebody wiser stepped in and took another player instead of me. But how has that ever been? Have you ever had like a case like that where the clock's running down, and how close have you gotten to that deadline? And just in general, you don't have to tell specific stories.
Yeah, I was going to say it hasn't happened here. Last year we got into it a little bit with Kenneth Walker where we couldn't get a hold of him, but we have everything laid out where hey, look, if this happens, we're going here. If that happens, we're going there. If we trade to this spot, there's a good chance these guys will be there. So, there's different movement and maps all the way through the board, and that's why we love the way it's set up and the way we've adjusted it over the years. But you're going to have your you're going to have your situations where you're I don't know, you're just like with Kenneth, right? We were in a situation where we just couldn't get a hold of him, and you want to be able to speak to the players before you select them. I think a number of years ago, the Raiders selected somebody that, had passed or something like that. So everybody was, always in, especially with Ron Wolf, was always like, hey, you gotta talk to the person, before you draft them in case something awful's happened, So, I think one of the craziest things that ever happened, I was in Green Bay, and, we had Brett Favre at the time, and we had a need at left tackle. And, it was a huge need for us at the time, and Ray Lewis was still on the board, and this was when you could call people and, try to tie up their lines yet. And so one of the guys I was working with, John Dorsey, had called Ray Lewis, and you could see Ray Lewis with Drew Rosenhaus on TV with the old phone that looked like you were calling in the Bombers, that big old –
Yeah, the brick phone.
Yeah, the brick phone. Yeah, the car phone, like they just ripped it out of the center console. Yeah, but anyway – so we had Ray Lewis on the line, and right at the last second, Baltimore turned it in and selected Ray Lewis, and we took a left tackle that didn't necessarily pan out. But you think about that, the Packers would have had the best offensive player in the league and the best defensive player in the league for probably 8-10 years or something. I don't know.
Now, John, before we let you go, have you hit us with a movie line? Because I've been paying attention. I don't think you.
It's funny you say that because I was just going to tell you I am starving, so we're going to get up to the airport and grab a steak sandwich and a steak sandwich.
That'd be Fletch.
Oh, I thought we were going to have our texters text in.
No,
I thought we had a deal. geez.
It's Dave and I.
I thought we were in the trust tree.
Oh wait, trust tree.
That's old school.
Is it?
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, you keep doing this out loud. We got to keep coming up with that.
All right. Well, all right. Do one more, and I'll let the listeners go for it.
Shoot,
Oh man.
I've been going to school for the last 6 years. Yeah, they're called Doc.
Yeah.
Okay,
there we
in
go.
your back pocket.
We'll let that one hang. See if the listeners get that one. I thought Dave and I were competing with each other, but we'll let the listeners know.
Yeah, geez. Let's all get on the same page here, fellas.
All right. Well, we'll get it better do it better next time.
John, we appreciate it as always. Safe travels out there, my friend, and we will talk to you next week.
All right, hopefully we'll see you in person soon.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thanks, buddy.
See you, man.
All right, take care, guys.
There you go. John Schneider of your Seattle Seahawks. I thought it was you and I competing against each other.